If you're considering living in Nashville, Tennessee, you can find pros and cons lists all over the internet. And the truth is, many of us making videos and blogs just find out what other people like about living in Nashville so they can make a long checklist. So today I'm just gonna do something a little bit different and give you my personal top 5 pros and cons of living in Nashville in 2023 so you get my most honest and detailed perspective. At the end, I'll even give you a bonus detail that I love about living here. My favorite thing may surprise you, and the worst thing about living in Nashville may convince you to stay away entirely. Let's find out because I'm getting after it right now. Living in Nashville in 2023 has its challenges for sure, but it has also been my favorite place to live in my entire adult life. I'm also a pretty optimistic guy, so I'm gonna start with my 5 favorite things about living here and save the worst things about living in Nashville for after. Before I gush about Nashville, if we haven't met yet, my name is Stephen Vegh with the Tennessee Soon Real Estate Team. If what I have to say today doesn't scare you away and you still have plans to move to Nashville, whether that's in 9 weeks or 9 months, my team and I specialize in helping people relocate to Middle Tennessee, and we would be honored to help you buy that perfect home. Call, text, or email. You can find all of my contact information in the description below. Now I'm getting started with something more practical, and that's my pro number 5 of living in Nashville: convenience. Now that I've lived in Nashville for 10 years, I've come to really appreciate how convenient it's laid out, as well as where Nashville itself is located. While they are heavily trafficked, roads like 65, 24, 40, 840, and Briley Parkway provide an intersecting network of roads directly in and out of all the places worth going around Nashville. And I love how easy it is for me to jump on a direct route into downtown Nashville. I also love the convenient location of the Nashville International Airport, which is located just far enough away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Not only is it centrally located within Tennessee for easy trips over to places like Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Memphis, but you're also just a few hours drive from many other big cities and states worth visiting. And maybe you've heard this before, and I'm here to tell you that it's true because my pro number 4 of living in Nashville is the Southern hospitality. I told my story of when I moved to Nashville 10 years ago here on this channel and how it changed my life. And the Southern hospitality I've received here played a big role in that change. People in Nashville and all over Tennessee are generally friendly, warm, and generous people. And there are many tight-knit communities all over the greater Metro Nashville area. I've experienced people bringing or sending me food, referring me job and business opportunities, and overall just making me and my family feel welcomed and supported everywhere we go here. Heck, our next door neighbor right now gives our dogs free veterinary care and refuses to let us pay her for it. Now, of course, Nashville isn't without its jerks. I mean, it is populated by human beings after all, and some areas have more crime than others. But overall, everywhere I go in Nashville, I see that Southern hospitality shining through, and I love it. Something else I love about Nashville is pro number 3, Nashville's natural beauty. While like any other big city in the country, there are areas of Nashville that feel more like a concrete jungle than a real one. Nashville is also surrounded by abundant trails, parks, lakes, and rolling hills with breathtaking beauty. And honestly, many of them I still haven't taken the time to experience and enjoy, such as Centennial Park and Percy Priest Lake. But I just love how many options there are around here to enjoy a day outdoors. My personal favorite is Radnor Lake, located just a little south of Nashville. It's got multiple hiking trails, including one that takes you through the woods right next to the gorgeous lake. I love how peaceful a walk around Radnor Lake always makes me feel, and I've also particularly enjoyed all the wildlife I've spotted there. I also love just sitting on one of the many benches positioned around the lake and looking out over the tranquil waters. I just love Radnor Lake, if you can't tell. Nashville is, of course, a small piece of Tennessee, and I knew I was gonna love the natural beauty here the day I drove in from Georgia on Highway 24, because that drive has some of the most spectacular views of Tennessee's rolling hills. Now I'm over halfway through my favorite things about living in Nashville, so coming up I can tell you about what's not so great about living here, and trust me, you'll wanna hear what I have to say before making a move to Nashville. But first is my next favorite thing about living in Nashville, which won't come as a surprise to anyone that knows me well, and that's pro number 2, the food. I made a video about the best restaurants in Nashville earlier this year for a reason. I will always be a foodie at heart. And in this regard, Nashville not only doesn't disappoint, it exceeds expectations. One of my favorite things about the food scene here is the variety. If you can think of a style or a heritage of food, you can probably find a restaurant or 10 in Nashville that serves it at an incredible level. Some of my favorites are the Loveless Cafe, which serves biscuits so good, they have to make nearly 10,000 of them a day to meet the demand. And a little known gem called Siam Cafe that serves the best Thai curries I have had in my 41 years on this planet. I also love the food truck culture here in Nashville, and how just about any time a local suburb is putting on an event, you can bet you'll find food trucks there serving some incredible dishes. Among these are the many Mexican food trucks you'll find throughout Nashville, which I absolutely adore. However, my favorite food truck in all of Nashville has to be Music City Gyros, whose extra loaded fries are so delicious they should be outlawed. Now, being the food lover I am, there is still one more thing about living in Nashville that I love more than the food, which, trust me, is saying something, and that's pro number 1, Nashville's job market. I talk about this a lot on the channel because not only is it the reason I moved to Nashville, it's the reason I haven't left after a decade and probably never will. And I actually didn't know about this next fact until recently, specifically when I was doing research for making helpful content here on this channel, and that's that Nashville is currently the #1 job market in all of America. Big companies like GM, Nissan, Dell, Oracle, and Amazon have all moved their business here. The healthcare field is huge in Nashville, employing tens of thousands of residents. There are ample opportunities here in the tech space. And of course, Nashville has a thriving music scene, which is currently a $15.6 billion part of the Nashville economy. Moving to Nashville helped my wife and I go from scraping by to thriving. And so many opportunities have opened up to us this past decade, including being able to buy our first home and adopt our daughters. I would tell anyone who's ready to work and build a life, Nashville is the perfect place to fulfill the American dream, and it makes me proud to live here. Now, like I've been teasing, Nashville isn't all good. So let's talk about what I think are the worst parts of living here, starting with con number 5, the bugs. And while I'm certainly not a fan of the creepy crawlies, I have this one at number 5 because honestly, the rest of the things on this list bother me quite a bit more. Still, it's worth noting that Nashville and Tennessee itself are home to plenty of insects that may make you rethink moving to Nashville. Some of the most common bugs here are more benign, like ladybugs and crickets. We also have our fair share of mosquitoes, termites, and ticks. I frequently find myself with bug bites on my upper and lower extremities after I spend a day outside, and it's just an aspect of living here you have to be prepared for. Nashville is also the only place I've lived where I've had to deal with ticks. And in one horrible case I won't go into detail about, bed bugs. There is one common bug here that I think actually adds to Nashville's charm, and that's fireflies. So it's not all bad here on the bug front. Next up, we should talk about something that pains me almost every time I look at a receipt, and that's con number 4, the sales tax. Now first, I should say that the county that Nashville resides in actually has the lowest sales tax rate you can get in Tennessee. But that doesn't help soften the blow much. Sales tax in Tennessee ranges from 9.75% down to 9.25%, which is what Nashville's sales tax currently sits at. In some ways, I've certainly adapted, so it's not something I'm constantly thinking about. But having lived in several other states with much more forgiving sales taxes, including Oregon, which doesn't have a sales tax at all, it can be a little painful paying nearly 10 cents on every dollar. And there will probably always be a little part of me that rebels against that fact. Not everything here is taxed at the full rate, for instance, most groceries, but you will pay the full sales tax rate on prepared food at restaurants. So if you love retail therapy, just be ready for what that will mean for your pocketbook when you move to Nashville. What I'm about to tell you next isn't the worst thing about living in Nashville for me. That's still coming up, but it seems to be what I hear other residents complain about most, and that's con number 3 of living in Nashville, the hot and humid summers. After all, Nashville is a southern state. Is it as hot here in Nashville as it is in, say, Florida? Heck no. But that doesn't mean it doesn't get ridiculously hot and sometimes stay that way all day and all week long here in the summer. Sometimes the only reprieve we get from the heat and humidity in the summer is a day of heavy rainfall, which in either case can make venturing outside downright unpleasant. Sunblock and umbrellas are a necessary part of living in Nashville, Tennessee. So is a working HVAC system. So if you move here, I recommend finding a competent and trustworthy HVAC technician, because trust me, you're gonna need them. Also, I know a guy. Now, while we're on the topic of weather, this next one bothers me even more than the hot summers, and that's con number 2, the unpredictable weather. As I alluded to before, you can be walking about on a hot summer day here in Nashville, enjoying the beauty of clear blue skies one minute, and then get soaked by torrential downpour the next. No matter what season of the year it is, it seems like one of the other seasons likes to visit for a day, or at least an afternoon. And Nashville residents have had to come to terms with it in a humorous way, joking that Nashville has 12 seasons instead of 4. We've also had some pretty major weather events here in the last 15 years that no one could have predicted, including the flood of 2010, where more rain dropped in 2 days than we normally see in an entire spring season, as well as the tornado that ripped through Nashville in 2020. My biggest pet peeve about the weather, and if you followed my channel, you've probably heard this already, is the snow and ice shutdowns. Because snow is so infrequent and unpredictable here, even in the winter, Nashville simply doesn't prepare for it, and so everything shuts down after a pretty small amount of snowfall. All in all, the unpredictable weather in Nashville can cause a fair amount of inconvenience in my daily life, and so I wanted to share my honest opinion about it. Now we've come to my least favorite thing about living in Nashville, and that's con number 1, the traffic. I mentioned highways like 65, 24, and 40 earlier in this video, and while I love how convenient and directly these roads can get you from A to B, so does everyone else. One of the things that makes our roads even more trafficked is how popular Nashville is for tourists. And since it's quite the hub for employment, we have droves of people commuting in and out of the city from far and wide. I currently live in Spring Hill, Tennessee, which is a Nashville suburb about 35 minutes south of downtown Nashville. Well, 35 minutes when the traffic isn't crazy anyway. And even way out in my suburb, the traffic on 65 and even some of the main roads in Spring Hill can get pretty congested. We also get a fair amount of car wrecks in Nashville that, depending on where they occur, can cause some pretty bad traffic jams. When you move to Nashville, it's critical that you know what your commute time is likely to be, or that you try to live somewhat near your job so you aren't spending hours a day in your car, because I've already done that and I can tell you I didn't like it very much. Now, I promised I would give you a bonus fact, and since I haven't even mentioned what Nashville is most known for, let's talk music. I saved this to the end for one major reason, because while I do love music, I'm not into the music culture and I don't even know how to read sheet music. What I do love is being surrounded by some of the country's best musicians and genuinely creative people. I also love how many venues there are all over Nashville to enjoy the incredible live music, and that my favorite artists will always make sure to stop in Nashville on their tours. Now, I mentioned that I live in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and I absolutely love it there. So much so that I made several videos about it on this channel. So if you also want to know the pros and cons of one of Nashville's fastest growing suburbs, check out this video right here. To those of you still watching, I have enjoyed spending time sharing my Nashville experience with you. So I thank you for spending this time with me, and I certainly hope to Tennessee you soon.